talking about journeys, destinations, culture, adventure, gear, conservation, and all the things we haven't yet thought of. This episode is brought to you by Kensington Tours. Even with your passion for overlanding, sometimes you want to change things up and see the world differently. Discover more refined travel that's customised and arranged for you with an expert private guide at your side. That's travel with Kensington Tours. Whether you dream of Italy for history, Kenya for safari, or Japan for food, it's a personal, once-in-a-lifetime trip every time. Visit kensingtontours.com today when you're ready to see the world differently. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome back to the At Overland Europe podcast. In this episode, we're excited to feature Mikael Strandberg, a renowned Swedish explorer and journalist known for his adventurous spirit and commitment to cultural and environmental exploration. With a rich background in documenting the lives of indigenous peoples around the globe, Mikael has taken on some of the most challenging expeditions. One of his notable projects includes participating in the DefenderX London to New York overland expedition, which showcased the spirit of overland travel. Recently, Mikael embarked on a groundbreaking journey as he completed a crossing of Greenland on foot just a few months ago. Join us as we delve into Mikael's fascinating experiences, explore the stories behind his adventures, and discuss the lessons learned from his remarkable journey across Greenland. Do you prefer to be called Mikael, Michael, or...
I've been called so many names, good and bad, so just choose one of them.
All right, it'll be Mikael Strandberg. Mikael, welcome. Maybe we can just kick off this discussion because I'm sure there are some people out there who don't yet know you. Maybe you can give us a little bit of background about who you are and how you got into exploring in the way you do.
Wow, that is a big question considering I've been doing this for 37 years. So basically, I went to the eye doctor with my daughter today. She had a checkup, and I was actually telling her a little bit about the backstory of my life because she's trying to figure out life as a teenager now. So I started off back in the day before internet, when books were the big thing. So I grew up in central Sweden in a small village called Darajärna. And I'm born 1962, and that was a good time to be born because it was kind of a time where it didn't matter where you came from or what background you had. Everyone was on pretty much looked upon the same and equal. So it was a good start because my daddy was a bricklayer and mum, she was at home all the time. And my sister, though, she moved very early to England and took a job as an au pair and got married and stayed there. So we used to go there every 2, 3, 4 years when the family could afford it. And that's kind of how it started up. Because otherwise, I believe I would probably be in Darajärna yet. But that kind of opened up my world back then, just going to Epping Forest where they lived. So that kind of started something. And then one day I was home from school, not feeling well, some kind of child disease back in the day. And I found the 3 books that the family had. And one of them was The Last of the Mohicans of James Fenimore Cooper. And another book was by Jack London. I can't remember the name of it. But I started reading these 2 books because I had nothing else to do. And that kind of opened my eyes to that there's something on the other side of the fence here, which is way more interested than the life in the village. So I continued to read books and I also told my daughter today, who's so worried what she's going to do now when it's time for her to stop traditional school and look for some kind of a higher education. And I said, I told her, I didn't. nobody forced me back home to go to school. So, I didn't really care about school. I spent most of my time at the library, and I read whatever I had to do there to figure out life. And that's how I started to travel. And one of the first thoughts I had was about the meaning of life. So I went to India for a year, like many, or Southeast Asia and India, many did back in the day, the overland trip. And I had thoughts of actually becoming a monk, a Buddhist monk. It didn't turn out too well, though. Instead, I did meet a guy who had cycled from Ireland all the way to Nepal, and I thought, wow, that's probably the way to do it, because I at this time now, when I didn't end up being a monk, I wanted to write, tell stories. And back then, the dream was writing a book, or at least write a few articles in the local newspaper. So that's how it started. And then at the same time, I found the Book of World Records, the Guinness one, somewhere. And I saw that the longest highway in the world was the Pan American Highway, going from the south of Chile, Argentina to Alaska. So I decided, why don't I cycle that one? Surely that'll get me going. So that's what I did then. And that took me a year and a half. And when I got back home, I was able to write for the local newspaper. And I started lecturing, and I really enjoyed it. And then I decided I might as well continue. So then I cycled from the northernmost tip of Europe, North Cape, to the southernmost tip of Africa, Cape of Agallas. And that took like 2.5 years or something. And then somebody asked, why don't you bring a camera with you, and maybe you could do films. Back then it was high eights. So I decided to cycle from New Zealand to Cairo, through Asia and then the Middle East, and do TV. Back in the day, things like that happened. And those were the days when we only had 2 or 3 channels over here, which meant once you're on TV, or you're an instant, celebrity almost. So that's how it all started, with those bicycle trips that I brought the first camera, and I was able to do 3-minute slots, 10 programs for a travel show called Ready to Go, for the biggest channel here. And then it started rolling. And after that, I went to Argentina, lived like a gaucho for a year. We traveled 3,000 kilometers by horse, followed by I lived with the Maasai in East Africa for 7 or 8 months. And then came the big trip, who still today kind of defined that I'm able to live on this. I traveled through Siberia for a year on with a canoe and on skis, and I got a lot of attention for that trip, globally. I normally say, but I'm actually talking about the Anglo-Saxon world, which, as you know, pretty much dominates how we see the world from over here. And after that, I've just continued. I've been in Yemen for a long time, traveled with a camel there for a few months through Rub al Khali, or MD Quarters, as the British call it. And then I did Man with a pram. I traveled through England. We lived in Moss Side, Manchester for a year, the whole family. So I took my daughter, walked from Moss Side to Buckingham Palace to make a film about the English. And then we moved to Greenland for a year, and I did Man with a Family. And right now I'm working on the film about me and my daughter cycling. Every summer we've done 4 long trips by bicycle, and it's a relational film about a solo dad and his daughters trying to figure out life together. And in between that, I'm doing small and big expedition. As you know, you've been involved in the DefenderX
Yeah.
expedition with Jeff and Steve. So a lot of something like that. And basically, I'm living on doing film and Yeah, well, I just realized I came back from Greenland a month ago. I forgot about that. A crossing, very difficult and hard. That's probably why I've forgotten it.
Well, I'll tell you what, we'll get to that bit in a minute, because let me just roll back. Your first trip was to India, I gathered, right?
Well, the first trips was this U-Rail or Interrail when you travel by
Yeah.
train for a month or something as a student. And after that, I went to South America for a few months. But the big first trip, I would say, was going to India and Southeast Asia,
Okay.
yes.
How old were you then?
20,
So still quite young then. Yes.
1920, something like that, yes. Well, in those days, we were young when we did these things.
Yeah.
And now it seems as quick, don't let your kids go until they're over 20. So things have changed.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you said you were born in 1962. Well, I was born in 1961. So we're roughly the same age. And I also did my interrail stint around Europe. So you went to India and you met a guy who'd ridden from Ireland on a bicycle. And your first bicycle trip was the Pan Americana. Is that correct?
Very much correct.
How long did that take?
It took a year and a half, and today it's famous. This is such a big word. Famous within this line of work, that I was one of the first who crossed the Darien Gap, which is a piece of jungle between Colombia and Panama, with a very bad reputation then and even worse today.
So that must have been, and you did that on your own as well, didn't you, I believe?
Yes. On and off, I had a company in the beginning and in the middle, but yes,
Wow.
by all three of them by myself.
Yeah. All right. You mentioned a moment ago that our first contact was with DefenderX, a fantastic expedition plan, but that sort of got slightly waylaid because of political problems or wars going on in Europe. How did you get involved in that?
Well, so the man with the vision, Jeff Wilner, I met him back in 2009, and then he was a not poor but almost poor guy with a lot of ideas. And because times after the Siberian trip were kind of hard, it was such a amazing trip in every way, so life got complicated after that. But I went to Yemen to learn Arabic, and I met Pam, the mother of my children, and she's American, and she wanted to move back to the US, so we ended up in Minneapolis, Minnesota, where I got treated like a hero because I was an actual Swede. And I needed a job, so I started looking and I've been working as a guide and enjoyed it. And I was looking for a company which I could work for. And the first one which turned up on Google back in the days was a company called Kensington Tours. So I wrote to him, and he had heard about me, and he said, "Yeah, give me a few itineraries you would like to do for us." Which I did a lot of work, and then he came back to me and said, "At the moment we don't have any work." So then I got upset and wrote a really hard letter to him, and he wrote a really hard letter to me, and then we got along, and he invited me to Africa. So we went there to East Africa, where he's brought up, Congo Kinshasa, and we ended up being the best of friends, and that has kind of stuck. And for years, we've looked for ways to do an expedition together. And since Jeff is way more into vehicles than what I do, we've been looking for it. And that's how it all started. First, we were thinking Africa, of course. But then, as many things with Jeff, it turns into something completely different. And then he read somewhere about one thing which hasn't been done was driving all the way from London to New York. And that's how it all started. And then along the road, because I know Steve Brooks from before, so I knew he had been attempted to cross from Alaska to Russia, and he got stopped. He had some funny looking vehicle back then. Then it ended up Steve and Jeff, and then we needed one more person who I could film together with, and that was Sophie. So it was kind of this group of four. And that's how it all started. And, we set off feeling like maybe we'll be heroes one day when we left London. Well, I don't think we even made it to London until we got problems with the car. And then we had problems when we got. So we spent most of the first days, if not almost all the trip, spending the evenings at a repair shop. And of course, this with a car was very different in every way. And we had this idea how we would do this and that. And it was a fantastic first part until we kind of ended up in Siberia. And then the war came on and turned everything around. And then it's been going back and forth, just putting ends together like that. So it's been a fantastic trip. There's no doubt about that. And I wouldn't for 1 second want to be without any of all that we went through. And it's completely different to anything I've ever done before. For me, just to be in a car is kind of against the rules of how I do any expeditions. So it's been a fantastic time, and hopefully we'll figure something else out. I don't know if it's going to continue, but we're working on the film as it has ended. But with Jeff, in 2 weeks we might be going again.
Incredible. Yeah, because that was the expedition with 2 Land Rover Defenders, and they were also with outriggers, so you could actually put them on the water, couldn't you? Because you did what was it, Dover to Calais?
We did the English Channel, yes.
So a very spectacular expedition, I think, as well. Not just remarkable from its objective of London to New York, but some of the bits in between. Really, really impressive.
Well, you can imagine when these vehicles turn up everywhere. And most of the time we were almost tied up to each other because it was a problem all the time. No, it was fantastic. But in hindsight, of course, the idea, because I wanted to, my big dream was the Kolyma, where I spent that year. Best people, spectacular surrounding, and one of the coldest inhabited places on Earth. I wanted to show Jeff and Steve and Sophie this, but we never made it. And I think we would probably have been dead today if we've headed off in there for many reasons, because the vehicles, they were not made to handle cold, even though we left it for the Russians to fix it. But and we wouldn't have been able to cross from Russia to Alaska either, because it would have malfunctioned. Now they've sorted it out, it seems, and they didn't have that much problem going down the Yukon. So I think we would be able to do it now. And that would be the most fantastic part, of course. Yeah. Driving on the sea ice, and then the idea was to leave it and on the sea ice, you have polar bears, you have all that. And then we would have left the cars in Weland until the summer, and then we would have sailed over to the other side. I think we would be able to do that now, maybe technically. But then, of course, we can't get in.
Sure.
So when things will change, nobody knows.
Yeah. When you say cold, how cold was it? What temperatures were you actually looking at?
When we were there in the car, it wasn't lower than -30 or something like that. But that was enough to worry the vehicles, and which didn't work too well. When I was there back in 2004, we had a thermometer with us, which ended at -58. So, but we saw it going lower too. So temperatures are around 60, 65.
That's incredible. And those are the temperatures you experienced when you were on skis, right?
Yes.
That must be incredibly enduring.
Yes. Once temperatures go 40 below, it's a completely different world to live in. One single mistake and, a finger or a nose or a tip or something like that is gone. But local people live there, and they've done so for 5,000 years. And this area around the Kolyma, one reason I went there is because this was the worst reputed camps that Stalin built, these penal colonies called gulags. So there was a lot of leftovers after that too, from buildings to people. Very interesting area.
Wow. Not many people get out that way, I'm sure.
Well, there's been a few after me who's tried to do the same, and I know somebody actually cycled it on a bicycle during winter as well, the same one I did. If they made it all the way, I don't know. But there's traffic during winter. I mean, one part, the upper level of the river is like a highway for 2 months every year when they transport things from east to
Yeah,
west and the other way
yeah,
around.
spectacular.
The Russians are a tough people, tough
Indeed.
people.
Indeed, they are. But you're a pretty tough person as well, because you've also, as you mentioned a moment ago, you've just recently returned from walking across Greenland, haven't you?
That is so true. That was a very hard trip. There's no doubt about that. Probably the one of the hardest physical trips I've ever done, for the fact that we basically, except one day, traveled 33 days between 8 and 10 hours a day, hauling 90 kilos. So of course, it got lighter by the way, and 45 kilos worth of food, so that was pretty much gone at the end. So that was a hard trip, there's no doubt about that. And the fall trip crossing Greenland is exactly how the first one who crossed Greenland, Fridtjof Nansen, did 1888. And back in the day, then it was really cold. For us, one day it could be in the 20s plus warm Celsius, and next day could be minus 20. So, and whiteouts, rain, snow, we had pretty much everything. Demanding
Very, very
trip.
demanding. But so the idea was basically, if I've now understood it correctly, that you were following the first attempt and successful attempt to walk across.
Yes, he wasn't exactly. And we never, so he went from one side of the sea to the other sea. But we got off the ice, left the skis and everything, and packed a rucksack and started walking. And we had about 3 to 5 days to get to the sea. But we got stuck in front of a river that we couldn't cross. So we had to be evacuated by helicopter, but we crossed the ice. Yes. But this was a sporting challenge, and I've never, even though it sounds like that, the sporting challenges has never been my main focus. It's always been the people. And of course, there's very few people on the ice there. And that, of course, was the highlight too, to know that on this huge ice cap, it's a 650 kilometers, it was only us pretty much, and all around you it was like traveling on a white pancake, only ice. Sometimes it was only whiteouts as well, so when it's a whiteout, you don't see anything. You don't know if you're upside down. It's like you're in a white cloud, so it's really hard with directions and everything, even to know where you ski. So a very tricky situation. And we had quite a few of those days. So this was a sporting challenge, and I want to do it because I'm plus 60 now, 62, a bit younger than you.
Thank you.
And I wanted to see if it's possible to do, which is considered as one of the most or hardest trips that you can do. And yes, I did it. But I was lucky to have been a team of 3 really nice people. And they were all, military, very fit, or professional polo guides. So it was really interesting in many ways. And of course, I could see that being half my age, of course, they were way stronger and everything, but with age, you realize how to do things differently too and use your age. And I was honestly a little bit in shock that I made it over all the way, because 2 years earlier, I tried and did a mistake and got a concussion, and I spent like a year basically not being able to do anything. And 2 years later, I made it over. And on top of this, I got a stroke due to this concussion. So a lot of
Good
trouble.
grief.
Yeah, but it shows, there's no limits if you decide to do something, if you put in the right amount of work. Like I had to train 3-4 hours a day for 2 years.
Okay, you've got as you say, the physical training for something like that, but you've also have a lot of mental training as well. Because if you're constantly in whiteouts, that's psychologically quite a lot of pressure. So how do you get your mind into gear, and how do you keep your focus when you're out there?
Well, the thing is, there's no time to do anything else than focus. So basically, it's like this. So you wake up, say it's 5:30 or 6 every morning. You know you have a distance to do. On average, we had to do 25 if we wanted to keep within around 30 days, because what happens if you're there more than 30 days is that you lose muscle, and losing muscle means losing strength, and everything gets so much harder. So if you do it within 30, 32, 33 days, there's a chance that you won't lose much muscle. So then you get up, and that man doing these 25 average means that you do up between 6 and 10 hours a day, depending on snow conditions. But let us say at least average 8, 9 hours. And to get it together, so you ski 1 hour, you haul 90 kilos, which gets lighter by the day, of course. And you only have 10 minutes on top of this hour every day where you have to eat, because you need between 6 and 8,000 calories to be able to move to get any power. So these 10 minutes you eat as much carbs as you can, and that's Pringles, chocolate, cakes, whatever, where there's a lot of fat and sugar. And then and you have to plan when you take your clothes off or on, or when you pee, because if you don't stick to these 10 minutes, you get less sleep in the night. And sleep, of course, is so important if you're going to recover, especially when you get over 60. We need really good sleep, and we need more protein than younger people to be able to continue. So it went on, and once it's over these hauling hours, time to put up camp. And if it's a 25 meter per second wind, you do a mistake with the tent, that's
Gone.
death. So you have to put it up exactly on the millimeter right, so you get the back end of the tent towards this wind. If you don't, it'll go down, and you will go down. And then you have to secure the tent. You start cooking. You spend 2 hours in the morning, 2 in the evening, boiling water for drinking and food. And when that's over, it's time to sleep. Then it's up again. And it goes on like that for 33, 34 days. So we started as one team, me and Anders. And then there was other team out there, 4 people, 2 left. No, 3 people. And so to make things easier, since we were heading the same way, we joined up together. That means that you have, over the day, you are in front minimum 2 times, because being in front is the hardest. So we had the other team with us, and only day 32 did I have a proper discussion with the other guy, a Danish special operative in the military. We talked. So for 32 days, otherwise we just said good morning or sleep well or whatever. How are you?
Incredible. You're with people, but you're actually quite solitary a lot of the time.
Yeah, which was fine.
I can understand the physical strain on a person, but also listening to what you're saying. I mean, the psychological aspect is really quite something.
Well, to be able, so I already knew from the beginning when I met them that they would be stronger than me. It doesn't matter how fit I am, 30 years beats 60 years. There's just no doubt about it. So I knew, so I would say about 40% of the hauling time we did, I just looked down on the sled in front of me and counted to 150 over and over and over and over and over for sometimes up to 10 hours a day, just to stay on time and behind the others.
Were you counting your
And
steps or just counting?
just counting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, like that over and over in Swedish. I'm fascinated by the philosophy of Buddhism. it goes back until, when I went to India, and it's returned in my old age here. When you want to be aware and stay in the present, one of the ideas of a meditation or be in the present is counting, because it's easier for the brain to focus. So I would say that this was a really good course in self-awareness, and to stay there. And then suddenly after the 33 days, somebody said, we're here and we've done it. And, so yes, but of course as well, it depends on who you are with. Four very different people, four Scandinavians, and for me, Scandinavians are not the easiest of people. We are a serious lot. But they were very good people. And on top of that, of course, I've never met anyone, not even Anders before that trip. And Anders and me shared the tent, all the time. He was a very nice guy, though. And at times, of course, it was difficult. But then again, your biggest enemy on a trip like this are your
Yeah.
thoughts. But that's also part of the Buddhist philosophy. So every day when these bad thoughts come and negative, I say, hello there, old friend. I know you from before. And I just say that to be able to break the
Yeah.
thoughts. Okay, they are just thoughts. And then on and off, luckily, I say within brackets, we live in a time where you can even communicate with like my daughters back home here, either by satellite phone, which I didn't do because I don't want to talk to people when I'm
Mhm.
away. It just complicates things, but I could send satellite messages and to my woman Hanna, and that was all I needed, or to Jeff, who I communicated with quite a lot, just to hear some nice words or so on, and then it's all over. And then you come home and you feel completely at loss, because there's no one who can understand what you've gone through, absolutely no one except the other three.
Mm.
And I thought maybe I was the only one, but I went over to see the Dane because he took home some of my equipment, and he said the same. I'm at complete loss here. And he's a military man, which I see as quite a simple life. But a month is gone now. And it took some time to recover. He lost 15 kilos, which is
Yeah.
enormous. And I don't know how much I lost. But when I've been eating like it's no tomorrow. And when I went to Turkey a few days ago, they had a scale in the toilet there, and I saw I actually added on 3 kilos, so I was heavier than I've ever been before. But I've been eating like nothing else during these 3 weeks, and then I had no strength. It was completely gone. My hands, they were so weak, so I couldn't even lift up a food bag. But that is back now, more or less. Yeah, but it just shows that the effort you put in it's not healthy. There's no doubt about that. And I find it extremely fantastic that we humans actually can do
Mm.
this. If you think about it, it's just insane. And it's just no more than 100 years back that we knew nothing about Greenland. With some people even thought it was a big tropical forest in the middle, which it once actually was, but not now. And now you can actually, with proper training as we know today, food and preparations, you can actually do it even when you're over 60. And my dad, he died when he was 62 or 63, and he looked like he was 120. So things have changed.
Vastly. Vastly. I mean, how long did it take you then to prepare for such a trip?
Well, this began like 4 years back when I wanted to do a film about people doing these things, and I was looking for 6 or 7 others to come with me to do a easier crossing, just from ice edge to ice edge, and during March and April, when it's a steady winter, which it's colder but it's steady, so you can deal with it much better compared to if one day it's 20 plus and the other 20
Mm.
minus. And that's when I managed to get a team together, and then I had this accident. So Before that, I trained for 2 years. And then I was at loss for a year with this concussion. And then Jeff, as always, inspired me to do it. And I asked his son, Max, if he wanted to come with me. And he wanted to come with me. And Jeff supported this and Kensington tours because he saw I was not happy. And as a friend, he decided to help me there. So and I knew I had, I had to get over there because so many people has put so much effort to it. So it was either you die or you do it.
Wow.
Old school. So I eventually got over, and to do that I trained 3-4 hours a day, and then you need a lot of recovery time. And the training meant, like hauling 2 tires, 7 or 8 hours through swamps and marshes, forests, beaches, and then gym, running, all these things. So a lot of training. It's really hard when you get back, by the way, because your body, first, I haven't slept, I've slept average 4-5 hours. Since I got back home per night, and I normally sleep 6.5 average. And because I can't sleep, either I'm too tired, the body, or I need exercise. But after a month now, I'm slowly getting back to it.
It's incredible, isn't it? The long-term effects of such an expedition has on a person. Quite incredible.
I know a friend of mine, he went to Greenland to do another trip way up north, and he had a friend with him. And the friend, he was 60. But, well, my friend was 53 and his friend was 60. And this guy over 60, he never recovered and died 4 years later because it was so hard. So it's hard to say what I have now. I'm numb, no feeling in this hand. I'm numb on the left side here. And I went to the doctor yesterday, and he said it was 2 nerves that had start functioning. But he figured with time it would stop.
Good grief.
But then again, is it worth it? Yes. But I'm training an hour every morning, and then I do proper training. 2 days rest, 2 days rest, 2 days rest, 2, like that. Otherwise, I'm not happy. I'm happy when I'm out there. That's the backside of it. You have to do something all the time.
Well, if you look at what you're doing at the moment, I mean, you're introducing your daughters to expeditions as well, aren't you? Because you've been cycling with them.
It is the biggest thing in my life to do that with me. To be out there with your daughters during these circumstances is just fantastic, and you are so close with them. And yeah, we didn't go this summer because Eva had to do, my oldest one who's got eye problems, she had to do a big surgery, so we stayed at home. But we'll go to Canada next year, and maybe by land road. They don't want to cycle or walk now. They are teenagers now, so everything like that is just not good. So we'll start a new film then, like a road trip, where they narrate all of the film by themselves and I only film. And maybe we'll take one of Jeff's Land Rovers.
Oh, that would be good.
We'll see. So something like that. So that is fantastic. Whether they will choose this or not, I don't know. But they seem to be happy out there. And they seem to be pretty fine back home here too, but never as happy as when we are living in the tent out there. There's something with this life. So that's fantastic. We'll see what it's 2 different personalities, my daughters. I think maybe one of them will go for it. Hard to know which one.
It's incredible that you can actually share certainly the beginnings of their expedition life so closely. Because the last trip you did, I think, was Namibia, wasn't it?
Yes.
And before that, I know you did Turkey.
Yes, and before that, we did 2 long tours here in Sweden, going from Malmö and up north. We were actually heading for Siberia because one of my daughters, we say she's born in Siberia. Her name is Sardana. We call her Dana. But Sardana in Yakutian means wildflower. I wanted to show her where she comes from, so to say. But then the war happened there too, so we kind of got
Hmm.
stuck. But mum is American, Canadian, Asian, so that's one reason we are going to Canada. They are better, so they can figure out life. I'm the one looking after my girls, so they meet their mum maybe once or twice a year at any length.
That must have been quite difficult then in the period when you were in Greenland, because you say that was more than a month.
That was really hard getting everything together, but I managed to get 3 different babysitters, their mum and her partner, my brother, and then a friend we met cycling a long time ago going through Sweden, who looked after the girls. So that was really hard. And when I came back, it was actually almost 6 weeks. They said this is too
Hmm.
long. So I won't do any long ones like that anymore until they are ready to rock and roll by
Unless they're
themselves.
with you.
I continuously felt guilty about that on the trip
Yeah.
too, by the way.
All right. Well, tell me a little bit about traveling with 2 young girls. Because how old are they?
Now they're 12 and 14, but I began like 5 years back, so they would have been 9 and 6 and 7
Okay,
then.
because that must be quite. I mean, you have to plan a lot for that as well, because their endurance isn't the same as your own. So, how does that work when you're cycling?
Well, it is a fantastic thing. So they've never been on cycle. They didn't even know how to cycle when I decided, let us do this. Because we came back from Greenland and my oldest daughter, Eva, had been blind for a while and we didn't know, and we still don't know today if that will happen. But I decided she has to see as much as possible of the world as I can get together. And one good thing to do that is cycling, because you get so close to nature and people and you get exercise. So the first trip I took them, they couldn't even cycle properly in the beginning. And I remember I think we did 16 kilometers the first day, but then they got better and better. And to tell you the truth, if I compare with Namibia, which was our last or latest trip, in the beginning they were so full of life, curious, happy, and easy to manipulate them compared to today. And then they go to school, they have friends, suddenly they move into their teens, and it's even though they still today are 2 fantastic girls, you cannot, they do their own thing and they have their own opinions. And this, so, and like in Africa, they were not at all. I thought that would be the big hit with all the animals and everything. And like the Bushmen or as they were called back in the day, was a big dream of mine. It didn't impress them at all. So it was. This is interesting to see these things. So that has changed. That's why I decided maybe for the relation, it's easier if we do a comfortable trip in a car next time.
Yes. So, if you're traveling through Namibia and you've got sort of what's in the back of your mind about the wild animals and meeting all the people, if that wasn't such a hit, what was their driving force other than you?
The huge amount of sweets and coke and all these drinks that they are not allowed to have at home here, because on trips they can eat and drink whatever they like 24/7 because it's
Mm.
needed. No, seriously, that is one part. But they know as well what Eva said today. I really miss traveling, she said. But she can't explain exactly what it is she's missing. But the big thing which takeaway from Namibia was how close they are, because they have no one else than themselves. And it's such a big country of deserts. So you spend a lot of the time cycling in deserts by yourself and you don't meet that much people. So they only had themselves. And then, of course, we came into villages and met a lot of young people, which was very interesting too, which gives perspective. But they are not like, we grew up with, how should I say, for them, everyone is the same. So it doesn't matter what color, or what you look like, or what you are, they treat everybody the same. Something you learn from traveling, but it means you're not that impressed either, as I was to see the Bushman. So what they take back home is that they best friends for
Mm.
life, which is so important for me too to know for the future. Plus that they know that they have this extra gear if needed. They can push it in and pretty much do whatever they think they need to do in life. Because cycling in Namibia was hard, even though I think it was harder in Turkey. But it was hard here too because it was a lot of gravel and a lot of desert. But they made it, and I think what they missed the most was Wi-Fi.
That's typical for the youth of today, though, isn't it?
It is, it is. But they're easy to be with. We have a lot of fun, and it's so great. That's why I want to continue the film because discussions continue. Like Dana, the young one, she's a good athlete. I believe she could go as far as she wants as a football player. Eva is an intellectual, but she's 14 and she's trying to figure out, she's not happy with how she is, how she looks, and everything. So we had a long discussion in the car today when we went to the doctor. And these moments are just brilliant. And we have a lot of them when you're on a bicycle, when you're in the tent or when you stop and have lunch or so on. So it's very good for that. So even though they are it's only a few months ago then they were so proud of a daddy and to be with daddy now. I can't even go with them to school. I have to turn off like 200 meters before the school so nobody sees me.
Oh dear.
So things change, but that's part of becoming a personality and an
Yeah.
individual, independent. So I'm happy to with that. So I'm very fortunate, but that said, it's not easy being a solo parent. I can tell you
Yeah.
that. It's so many. So first thing I had to do when I got back from Greenland was going shopping. And then there's so many other things like going to football training now, taking Eva there. So you spend most of your life as a service unit, which is fine, but it's not easy
No.
always.
You're documenting all of your trips together, aren't you, as well?
I am, yeah. I've kind of been filming all their life in one way or the
Mm.
other. So all my films, they are there somewhere. And Dana, she was, of course, in Man with a Plan, which she saw for the first time 2 months ago and was stunned at how she was back then. She was such a charismatic person. But these schools, they just kill personality. As quick as you have to enter this society, they force you to be like the
Mm.
mainstream. So that's not it. So then, if you go out and look, pretty much everyone looks the same clothes, not a lot of different colors. It's strange, but it is what it is.
Man with a pram. Can that be seen on online?
Yes, I will send you all the films, and you can see the ones you want.
Can I
There's
share some of those links as well?
You can share all of
Oh,
them.
brilliant.
Not a problem at all. I'm happy if everyone's seen them. They've all been broadcast and traveled to
Okay.
festivals, but that's with the years, they people forget them. So I'm happy if anyone want to see
All
them.
right. Well, we'll certainly publish those then. All right. So your next trip is with your daughters is to Canada. And that's what next year. What is your next trip? What are you planning next for yourself?
Well, it's an interesting question because, as you know, with age, you get nothing really impresses you, and you don't care really what anyone else thinks about you or anything because you don't have to, it doesn't matter one bit. And earlier I was so proud to be a fellow of the Royal Geographical Society and Explorers Club. And today, why? I don't even know why I am, for example. But so I'm trying to get rid. If you see behind here, it's only one film poster. I realized one day, if you have these film posters up about yourself, it's like you tell yourself that you're much better than everybody else. So, and this I don't want to do. I don't believe in that at all. And I said to myself, once they will fall off, they are not going up again. And it's just two of them left. So I leave that. And I'm saying that because what shocks me a little bit is that after having completed Greenland, I actually would like to do one more big trip like that. And what we are talking about then, if we look at this, how should I say, this world of sporting challenges, because I think every climbing mountains and these trips, if you got people, that's just the athletes, sporting challenges, nothing else. So I would actually like to climb Mount Everest, and that's what I'm going to target now. Or South Pole or North Pole, but North Pole is kind of out of the question due to the climate changes.
Mount Everest is quite popular at the moment as well, isn't it?
It is, but if you climb it from the Tibetan side, there's hardly any since China is in charge there. So it's pretty much empty there, I've understood. And there's different season and so on. We'll see what happens. I would like to climb it together with Jeff's son, Max, who I consider as a very good friend, and I like being with a young lad like that. It inspires me to and keeps me on the toes for sure. On top of that, more important, I would like to get it back into. I'm really interested in the post-Soviet areas. And people there fascinate me. And I would like to go back in one way or the other and make documentaries, but behind the camera, not in front of it. It's just that I don't have an idea, and I don't really understand why people have to go to war. I don't get the concept. Why would anybody like to start a war? I don't get it. It's as dumb as it gets. And I would like to figure out why. Who are these people who gets the idea to start it? Why do we have to be this aggressive? And as you see, we haven't learned anything for, 5,000 years that we can call that we've had some kind of settled civilization, and we've done nothing but create wars all the time. So I would like to figure that out. And for some reason, everything I've read from big Russian or post-Soviet writers, the way they describe suffering, wars, personalities it's so intriguing for me. So I am definitely going to pursue that. What it will be at the end, I have no clue.
I think for somebody who's as well travelled as you are, you did Cape cold to Cape hot. Even doing a route like that in this day and age has become more difficult because of political uprisings, wars, and everything along the way. So I think you must still feel that you've had an awful lot of reward throughout your traveling, because what you've done for many people may not be possible in the same way again.
This is true. And when you say that, I remember, when I first started out, and all the books I read were set like 20 or 30 or 40 or 50 years earlier. And, it felt like, wow, these guys, that was the time to be there. And now you are saying this. That is development. And it is actually, the world continuously changes, of course. And as you say, one has to figure out other ways to travel, I think. But one reason that we didn't choose to go to Africa with DefenderX is that you have pretty much paved road all over the place now, due to very much the Chinese. And Jeff just wasn't interested in that.
Yeah.
So, of course, things are changing, but people are, more or less the same, as interesting as ever. And we just have to take it from there.
I think one of the sort of the journeys which certainly got my mind going was the original London to Singapore in a couple of Land Rovers. And having read the book about that trip, they were battling through jungles and unpaved areas, etc. And today you can get in a taxi and say, take me to Singapore. There's the excitement and the thrill is no longer there in the same way.
But that's the same with the crossing as well. Today we have modern material. We have satellite phones and security gadgets with us. So if things go wrong, we can be hauled out there if weather isn't too bad. So and we know exactly, well, not every meter of the ice, it changes all the time due to the climate as well and what season it is. But otherwise, when we travel there, we kind of have a GPS where we pretty much you can plot the route before. It's not as easy as it sounds in Greenland due to batteries and everything, but it's not the same as it once was. So that's why I see my more as a traveler than people call themselves explorers today. I don't think it exists. Those days are gone.
Yeah, I agree with that. But I still think it's brilliant that you've done, let's say, Greenland, and you did it on foot and not in a vehicle.
Somebody wrote to me the other day and asked, could you have done it with the DefenderX's? And we wouldn't have been able to make it through the crevasse area. But once up on the ice, yes. Maybe it can be done there too. I don't know. I know they have some kind of a trips in Antarctica, and I don't know how they avoid the glaciers there, but apparently you can do that. But yes, well, Greenland, there's hardly any roads anywhere anyway.
Correct.
Yeah, but that is changing as well. When I first came, and that is 2018, the main airport, they was like walking into a shed. Well, now when we came back, you have all these security measures. It's a completely different world, and people are less friendly with the new stuff. It's amazing what all this modern gear it makes it more hostile towards human beings, and you kind of feel that you're controlled all the time. And I met somebody who's been a spy the other day, and he said it's impossible to be a spy. I had so many different passports, but today it's biometric, so you can't even have a fake passport, he said.
Changing times. Not too sure if it's always for the better, but changing times.
But I think it is for the better. If you look at me, look at you, the age we are pretty healthy. We still have probably 20, maybe even 30 reasonably good years ahead. Only 40 years ago, that was not the case. True. So I see these things too. And then, there's still so many things to discover. Like I have a buddy, Ollie Steeds. He started a project called Necton Mission, and which deals with the sea. And he says we only know about 3-4% of all the species that is in the sea today. So it's a lot of discovery to do there, for example.
Yeah, I think we know a little bit more about some parts of the moon than we do about what's under the water. That's true. Very true.
Mm-hmm, for sure.
But I prefer to stay on land, to be honest.
Well, I went down in one of these subs, and you just have to trust the pilot. But I'm born in the forest. The sea makes me very... I didn't like that crossing over the channel, since I don't like the sea. I'm not comfortable on it. I pretended, like... I felt nothing, but I did.
You smiled for the camera.
Yeah, and pretended, that, this is so easy.
Dear, oh dear. Well, I tell you what, let's look forward to the next 20 to 30 years and more adventures. And I think for today, I'd like to draw it to a close, but I hope sincerely that we can pick this up again in the not too distant future and maybe discuss one of your other adventures.
I would be very happy to do that. I'm very happy we are in touch, Mike. And if you're en route here I live in Malmö, just on the other side of Copenhagen, not too far from you in these days. Most welcome.
Well, certainly planning to come up your way early next year. Yes.
You are.
Mikael, thank you so much for talking to me today. Amazing stories. And I really look forward to our next edition.
I'm very honored to having been part of this pod, and I look forward to talking to you again.
Perfect. Speak soon.
Will do. Take care now.
Thanks for tuning in to the At Overland Europe podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to like, subscribe, and download our app for more adventures and exclusive content. Remember, you can find our guest social media and websites linked in the description below. Until next time, safe travels.